Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, on today's show, we're talking all things pertaining to the San Francisco 49ers and their victory over the Rams. I see somebody in the chat, they're like, beat up the Rams. I know, I get it. You got to be a little dramatic with the thumbnails, all right? Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We're going to be discussing the defense, what happened on the back end, the secondary, and what adjustments did Steve Wilks make? All right, the offense, of course, Brock Purdy, his performance, the good, the bad, Deebo Samuel, all that and more. But first, again, make sure that y'all. Yeah. Appreciate everybody's in the chat. Of course, this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. And I'm not going to lie, right now, I have a bone to pick with Underdog. Not anything that they did wrong. Matter of fact, one of them was my fault. All right, my bro, we were talking about it. I do very well with the second half player lines that they have. And the game was really tight at halftime. Again, we're going to dive into all the specifics of this game, but the game was really tight. And I thought it was going to continue to be tight. So I did not think that Matthew Stafford would end up throwing as much as he did in the second half. And if I have my phone here, I can kind of show y'all what I missed out on, man. And I'm not going to lie, y'all. It hurt. It hurt. So I have nobody to blame but myself. And especially since my bro, I mean, again, we had this conversation and it was just like, golly, I missed out on $1,000. $1,000. All right. So here it goes right here. 5 picks for 1,000. Y'all can see it. Boom. I got that little blurry thing on, so it's kind of hard. It's not focusing. Never mind. Forget that. But anyways, Matthew Stafford throwing for. And it didn't happen to his last drive. So that last drive that Matthew Stafford had, that's what ended up made me miss out on $1,000 on Underdog Fantasy. But maybe you have better luck than me, better fortune than me. So go to Underdog Fantasy right now. Go to the underdogfantasy.com, download the app. Whatever you have to do, use promo code Crocky. Of course, we're giving out $50 giveaways every week. All right. So we did it last week. We did the week before. Matter of fact, we did 2 last week. We did 1 the week before. So I am giving out $50 every week on Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do to be able to be eligible to get that, have an Underdog Fantasy username. And of course, I would love for you to use promo code Crocky. All right. They'll double your deposit up to $100. Now, a lot of stuff went on this weekend. And obviously with the San Francisco 49ers playing, but I have to start in a different direction. I'm going to start with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. All right. And again, we're going to get to the San Francisco 49ers. And we're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to talk about Wilks, the defense, Deommodore, Lenoir from the first half, Deommodore, Lenoir second half, some of the things that they're doing schematically. We're going to talk about all those things. Brock Purdy, some of the misses, why I thought this was his worst game and why you should not worry at all. Come on, man. Dude played his worst game and you still put up 30 points. All right. But I want to talk about Coach Prime. Because I'm watching Colorado, and I want to make this very clear. We're going to spend about 2 minutes talking about this real quick. All right. Did anybody pay attention to Colorado last year? Most people didn't. They were terrible. Probably one of the worst programs in America. All right, as far as especially FBS, D1. One of the worst programs in America. I remember there were 2 job openings that I thought were worthy of somebody like Deion Sanders. Colorado, and I didn't even really consider them, and Auburn. And I'm like, Auburn needs to go get Deion. Auburn needs to go get Deion. And my boy Chris, shout out to my boy Chris. And I was telling Chris, I was like, Chris, this was a couple years ago. I'm like, USC needs to go get, this is before Lincoln Riley. I'm like, USC needs to go get Deion. Like, bro, he's a culture change. He's going to check the whole stuff up. He's going to change it. Well, he's like, man, nah, Deion. And now he's admitted, like, man, Croc, you're right. Colorado, all of a sudden, because of all the attention that is garnered over the last few weeks, and you see the wins. They start off 3-0. They had it was a great football game against Colorado State. Now Colorado has these high expectations. Deion said it himself, and I'm gonna tell y'all too right now. University of Colorado University, they are not a playoff team in college football. All right, they will lose games. Probably lose to USC, maybe lose to Oregon, whatever. All right, they will lose games. But it is exciting to see a team go from just the dumpster, the trash, and for him to do what he's doing, the culture, the influence, having all those rappers and actors and musicians and everybody on the sidelines at Colorado. He's doing everything possible to build up a buzz around Colorado. And there are people that want to see him fail. I get it. Whatever. They want to see him lose. They want to shut him up. He is at Colorado. How else do you think he's going to get these players to go to Colorado? Okay? He's getting these guys from all over. They had the number one transfer class in the nation or top 3. All right. It is extremely difficult to get people to want to players that can go anywhere to want to go to Colorado. So everything what he's doing, okay, everything that he's doing is to build up Colorado, and hopefully over the next 2-3 years, he can truly compete for a national championship. It's not going to be this year. Well, I don't want to put my limitations on him. I would say, in my opinion, I have a hard time seeing them being a national championship contender this year. But moving forward, definitely. It's just crazy, though, because I know people are waiting for them to lose, and it's like they're going to lose. They're going to lose games. They almost lost to Colorado State. All right. There's going to be some tight games or whatever, but it is exciting to see what Deion has done there, how he's really turned that program around so fast. Heading into this year, they had the expectations to win 3 games. That was their win-loss over under. It was set at 3. At 3. That's how many wins they were expecting this year with Deion. And he already has 3 wins. So I think he's doing an amazing job. He's brought a lot of attention to Colorado, who when nobody else was none of y'all were thinking about Colorado last year. So he's done an amazing job from that standpoint. He said it himself, though. He said, I'm about 7 or 8 dogs away. So he's basically telling y'all, this ain't really the year. This ain't the year. I'm about 7 or 8 dogs away. But for this team to even get to bowl games, that is a huge accomplishment after they won 1 game last year. All right, so I just kind of want to start off with Colorado, like Colorado. Nobody was thinking about sending their kids to Colorado. Now everybody's like, man, that's the power of prime. All right, enough of Deion Sanders. Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to get into the secondary. I definitely want to start off with Brock Purdy. All right. And Brock Purdy probably had his worst game as a 49er. And in the worst game, the 49ers still put up 30 points. And I don't think he was super erratic. But I would say from an accuracy standpoint, he was off. All right. I think a lot of us are going to think about the 3 big misses. The vertical throw to Brandon Ayuk that he missed. All right. And also, I'm going to tell you like one thing that I love from Brock Purdy that I took away from all of this. But he missed Brandon Ayuk down the field. Brandon Ayuk destroyed a Keller Witherspoon on a double move like a sluggo and killed him. He's off, and he just overthrew him. Damn. Okay, missed opportunity. And then on the left side, you had Deebo Samuel. And Deebo Samuel did a terrific job of moving the defensive back. He had a tight split. All right, he had a go route from a tight split. He did a really good job of outside stem, snap back inside, stack the cornerback, beat him vertically over the top, and boom, he overthrew him. All right, that's a huge miss. Another opportunity for an explosive play. And then he had, which would not have been a touchdown, this one, but he had a miss to Juwan Jennings, all right, where middle of the field, he kind of threw it, and it just had to be on him, and he just missed it. Like, there was enough space for him to just hit him, and it would have been like a, 25, 30-yard gain or whatever it was. Would have been a tremendous throw, but he didn't make it. All right, so those were 3 missed opportunities. But that's not why I say he was, like, super inaccurate. Obviously, he missed those, and you would like to hit on at least one of those. Actually, he did hit Juwan Jennings later down the sideline, and he said, you know what, I ain't going to overthrow him this time, so this is a good job of just learning from your mistakes. He said, you know what, Juwan Jennings, I ain't going to miss you this time. I'm just going to throw it in a spot to where you could just go up and get it. And Juwan Jennings went up and got it. All right, so they did have that explosive play. Now, some of the misses are from his first throw. I think it was his first attempt to George Kittle. He threw an out route. He threw the ball back inside, and George Kittle had to, like, turn and, like, dive backwards to catch the ball. That is a very inaccurate throw. He threw one like that to Deebo Samuel, where Deebo, he on the slant, 3rd down, and he just threw it behind him. There was another throw on that he just, like, missed. Like, he missed throws in this game. But the thing I love about Brock Purdy, and I'm continuing to see, even in the game where I don't think he had his quote unquote fastball. And I want to know what that looked like. Like, if he's not just hitting on the things he does well, which we're talking about, from the line of scrimmage to, 15 yards down the field, that's the area where he's like most comfortable working, right? And if he's kind of off with that, just with his accuracy here and there, right? He made some throws, but what does it look like? And it's like, well, it looks like they still scored 30 points. And part of it is, this team is built very well. He had some guys make some big catches. I talked about the George Kittle one. There was one at Deebo Samuel that he had to kind of stop and turn back and dive the opposite way for. Like, it was very inaccurate throw. He wasn't very accurate on the day, but he made enough throws. And combined with Kyle Shanahan, combined with the playmakers, hey, all right, you're off a little bit. We're going to continue to take a few shots, but we're also going to get the ball a lot behind the line of scrimmage to Deebo Samuel and let Deebo work his magic. Deebo did his thing. I feel like Brock Purdy should have had his 2 touchdown throws. He still had 2 tugs, right, because he had the rush, and he had a throw. Who was the throw to? All right, so they took away one of his throws, but he threw one behind the line of scrimmage to Deebo Samuel, and I thought it was a pass. They counted it as a run for Deebo, and he ended up scoring. All right, but overall, the things that I like was when you don't have your fastball, when you're not like 100% on, when it's not all peachy, when it's not great, you still figure out a way to, one, offense scores 30 points, and you get things going. I didn't see him like get nervous. I didn't see him like start to get shell shocked. I didn't see him start to say, you know what, I'm not going to pull the trigger. There's videos out there right now, Justin Fields, where he has a bunch of time and he just runs into a sack. You know what I'm saying? Like multiple sacks, just like running in the sack. It's the wildest thing. All right. It looks crazy when you just watch it on film. All right. The people coming out kind of early to do yard this morning. All right. But anyways, you see a guy when he starts to look shell shocked. That was not the case with Brock Purdy. Didn't have his fastball, didn't have a great game from an accuracy standpoint, but he kept firing, kept making reads, and did some good things. And ultimately, 49ers scored 30 points. And Brock Purdy, he continues to be undefeated as a starter in the regular season. So I'm all for it. Great job. Not his best performance. Won't be the last time he has a performance like that. But if he can continue to figure out how to still put up 30 points, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. All right. The other thing I want to talk about, all right, definitely the secondary. And appreciate everybody in the chat. Let me look at some of the things that y'all have been saying so far. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Here we go. We got JM617. Throws looked off, but the reads were there. He'll be okay. I mean, JM617. He was off. Like that should be the end of it, right? The throws were off, and they were off. All right. Whether you make the right reads, but you're still missing throws or you're inaccurate on your throws, like he was off. If BP hits one of the 3 deep balls, we forget about the other 2. Correct. But he also did hit one. Like I said, and I don't know why this play, we kind of forget it, but he did hit Juwan Jennings down the left side of the field. Nice jump ball. We got the Pluto line says the team put up 30, not Purdy. All right. I would say this. It was not Purdy that put up the 30 points, but he's the quarterback of the team. And every regular season game that he's being the quarterback of, like they're averaging over 30 points a game. So whether it's him or a combination of him being a good complement to everything else that the 49ers have, which I think he is. I think he's a great complement to that. The team will consistently be in position to put up 30 points. I 100% get what you're saying. I think what you're saying is going to be more times the case with Purdy, where it's not always going to be, most of the time, not going to be this guy that's just slinging it, just hitting all these big throws down the field and all this, down the other. Like, that's not going to be how the 49ers score 30 points. But him complementing the run game, Christian McCaffrey, what McCaffrey does, how he helps, right? He sprung off some big runs, etc. The defense put them in scoring positions. Like, they're going to continue to do that, but I think he helps, right? One part about him really helping, or a big part that's overlooked in all this, where I said, man, he probably had his worst game from an accuracy standpoint. He didn't turn the ball over. There was one ball that got put on the ground. I think it was like a bad snap, but he recovered it. He didn't turn the ball over. So because he didn't turn the ball over, and he did a good job of, hey, Deebo, we're going to lean on you. McCaffrey going to lean on you. And can I make a couple throws, to IU? Can I make a couple throws to Juwan Jennings? He did that. So ultimately that resulted in 30 points for your San Francisco 49ers. But I get what you're saying, the Pluto Lounge. We got Deshaun in the chat. He says, I was at the game. He was Jimmy Garoppolo 2.0. Reason why we scored was we got so many timely turnovers. And I think that definitely helps. But now here's the thing. Every game, Brock isn't going to be like this. Who y'all want at quarterback? Okay. He's not going to be this guy that is just this like super special thrower where you just see him creating the explosive plays. Like that's not going to be Brock. Like that's not who Brock is. But Brock is an amazing compliment to Kyle Shanahan. He sees the field the way Kyle does. It's like, hey, I just need you to make these throws. He's going to do those things. Hey, we got a terrific defense for the most part. They are going to take the ball away. They're going to put you in scoring position. We got Christian McCaffrey. We got Deebo Samuel. Like all he has to do is be Jimmy 2.0. Now, one thing that he did better than Jimmy was he didn't turn the ball over. So just imagine if he turned the ball over one time, like does the game look a little different? I think so. So I think that was a big part right there where Jimmy in that game might have turned the ball over. Jimmy might have still won the game. Maybe he still figures out a way. But more times than not, Brock is going to be Jimmy 2.0. They win in a very similar way. They win in similar parts of the field. You know, I think there's added mobility with Brock. But for the most part, like they are very similar. So Jimmy 2.0, I'm not mad at that. We got Gio in the chat. He says, no way he's Jimmy 2.0. Jimmy would have definitely thrown 2 picks. Jimmy maybe would have thrown 2 picks, and he still would have figured out a way to win. It just would have been a lot closer than it had to be. All right, let's get off of Brock Purdy again. I think, again, for a game where he did not have his fastball, the team still put up 30 points, and I think that's tremendous. And he's still undefeated as a starter in the regular season. And still undefeated in any game that he has finished. I think that there's a lot to say about that. All right, there's a lot to say about that. Now, what a lot of people have questions about, what the hell is going on with the defense in the first half? All right, I want to clarify by saying the first half because clearly Steve Wilks and the defense, they made some adjustments to where in the second half, for the most part, until they got that garbage time field goal, they held the Rams to 3 points in the second half. Until that garbage time field goal. All right. So what happened in the first half? Well, Matthew Stafford was on. And I thought the 49ers played a little soft. I think that more times than not, the 49ers defense plays soft. But typically it's not exposed. Why is it not exposed? Because why is it not exposed? Because you have Nick Bosa getting to the quarterback, pushing him off his spot, making him throw before he wants to. And in this game, Nick Bosa is not doing that. Why? Because Nick Bosa is out of shape. So, I go live with Bleacher Report after the game, and I said, Nick Bosa is a loser in this situation and they had me picking like winners and losers from the game. Bosa was one of my losers because he's still out of shape, out of game shape. And a lot of people felt like, oh, it wouldn't matter. TJ Watt showed up and still had 2 sacks and blah, blah, blah. Nick Bosa can't give you all the Nick Bosa right now, because he's out of shape. He's tired. He's getting pushed around a little bit. And there are times where I see him have a nice bull rush. Saw against the Steelers, saw it this game. But for the most part, he's not the Nick Bosa. Matter of fact, I saw my group chat, and one of the homies, he's a Dallas Cowboy fan. They got Michael Parsons. He's going crazy right now. All right. But one of my homies was like, is Nick Bosa playing? I'm like, yeah, he's playing, man. Get off my dog. All right. But he did force a couple holding penalties. But right now, the defense looks soft because Nick Bosa isn't being Nick Bosa. What the 49ers ideally want to do, and again, we're going to talk about the adjustment and maybe what Steve Wilks kind of came to the conclusion of. But they want to rush 4, maybe have some stunts, blitz every now and then, and have coverage on the back end. Keep it in front of you, rally down, make tackles. And a lot of times, quarterbacks don't have enough time to really just be able to drop back, go through a bunch of reads, make throws. Well, in the first half, Matthew Stafford, it's like, he's not getting pressured. So what do you do? Oh, okay, I'm just gonna keep hitting Puka Nakua or whatever his name is from BYU, rookie. I'm just gonna drop back and keep hitting him on these crossers, on these sit routes. And I did think there were times where the 49ers secondary could definitely have been more aggressive with defending him. How do you get more aggressive, right? You have to be more aggressive with your reading of the concepts. How do you do that? So let's say we have cover 3 on, and I'm hoping that the film comes out in like tonight or tomorrow, and then I can present this film to you so I could talk y'all through kind of what I'm seeing, and you guys can see it as I'm talking about it. But when you have zones, all right, 49ers, they're playing off, they're playing zone. You're reading something, right? So you're reading concepts, you're reading 2-1. If 2 goes away, right? So 2 is like you got the furthest outside receiver, he's 1. The next guy, that's 2. And then whoever the next guy is, whether it's on this side or the backfield, it's 3. All right. Then the numbers, the count starts over on the opposite side. So if I'm a corner, let's say I'm Deommodore Lenoir, because I saw this happen in front of him a few times. I'm Deommodore Lenoir. I'm an outside corner. I'm in cover 3, right? I know I have kind of this flat defender, but I have this guy pushing up. I'm reading 2-1. If 2 goes away right now, I need to be more aggressive on 1 because there's nobody else to threaten my third. All right. And this kind of reminds me of the Super Bowl, and it's a play that really hurts, but that wasp play where everybody's like, why is Emmanuel Mosley driving that in-breaking route when you have a guy return on the outside on the post corner as Tyreek Hill? That's Emmanuel Mosley's third. And it's like, technically that's his third, but not by our coverage rules. By our coverage rules, 2 went away on the post. So now Emmanuel Mosley, who's the furthest outside guy in his deep third, you can squeeze whatever 1 does. Number 1 can run a 10-yard dig, and I can squeeze that because 2 went away on the post. Unfortunately, on that play, 2 went away on the post, but they had so much time because Mahomes dropped back 20 yards and then just threw it, and he got the corner. All right, that's a whole different conversation. But regardless, I'm watching Deommodore Lenoir, and Puka runs a like deep curl, and 2 goes away. So now it leaves a void. I need to be more tighter and anticipate that stop route. And I didn't think that Deommodore Lenoir was anticipating any stop routes at all. Okay, for most of this game, he just was not anticipating it at all. It's just like, we're just going to play soft. We're going to keep things in front of us, rally down, make tackles. And Matthew Stafford through the first half is going to throw like 2 incomplete passes. It was ridiculous. It was pitch and catch. I think they rely a lot on Nick Bosa to just get there and the pass rush to get there so they can just play coverage on the back end. Now, outside of that, okay, what they did in the second half and where I thought that they did a really good job. Wilkes said, you know what? Forget all this soft stuff. We're going to line up everyone at the line of scrimmage, and we're going to blitz it. I'm just going to send 5 guys. I'm going to send 6 guys, and go ahead on the outside. You guys go ahead and start playing some press coverage. All right. So what we see from Deommodore Lenoir, and there was somebody in my comments like, 49ers don't have guys that can press coverage. Actually, yes, they do. It's a lot easier to press than it is to play off. All right. So you saw Lenoir impress. You saw Travarius Ward impress. All right. And how did Deommodore Lenoir get the interception? Impress. So we're more aggressive. We're at the line of scrimmage. We're sending guys. He's undercutting a slant route. He did a terrific job of staying square, hands on, watch the guy, undercut the route. Terrific job. You can't play press any better than that. That was great stuff there. And he made a play. But the second half adjustments from Wilkes was saying, you know what? If Nick Bosa isn't going to get there right now, he's not Nick Bosa yet. We need maybe 2 more games. I'm going to have to figure out a different way to be more aggressive. And that way I'm going to be more aggressive is by sending extra guys. And that was what they did. And they started kind of getting there. They started making Matthew Stafford throw it before he wanted to throw it. They squeezed down those windows, and that was the adjustment. Bosa can't get there. We need to be more aggressive. And they rely a lot on him. We talked about Drake Jackson, and Drake Jackson being that bookend for the San Francisco 49ers. Well, he had 3 sacks last week. We talked about how he got those sacks. A lot of it was more hustle plays, extended plays, coverage plays on the back end, and then he cleans it up and he gets a sack. What happens when you have a quarterback that sees the field very well and is going to get the ball out of his hands quick? Damn, kind of get ate up, right? So we got to send more guys. We can't rely on Drake Jackson, can't rely on Nick Bosa right now. So We're going to play more tighter coverage. I'm curious to see, do they continue to do that moving forward? Is that going to be the philosophy until they feel like Nick Bosa is in more game shape and he starts to be who he is? And not the guy who's a little winded right now, not the guy that got pancaked last week by a tight end. All right. So do the 49ers get more aggressive on the back end? They ideally want to just sit back and play coverage and rush their four. And a lot of times that works for them. Not right now when Nick Bosa is still working back into game shape. All right, appreciate everybody that's tuned in right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to get to the chat. I saw a super chat in there. All right. And I had a question from, here we go, Javier Reyes. Croc, talk about our head coach finally being the coach we wanted. Look how aggressive he is being. He finally has the QB he trusts. Jimmy was the issue. It was great to see him be aggressive. I'm not going to lie. It didn't start this week, right? It started last week. Last week we saw the 49ers. Was on the first drive or second drive around midfield. What did he do? 4th and 2. We're going for it, right? We're going for it. And he ends up doing kind of this play action, and he gets George Kittle in the flat, picks up a first down. Remember, that was 4th down. So big play there. Got the 49ers rolling offensively. He was aggressive. I said, okay, look at Kyle. Look at Kyle. This game, right before the half, you're down 10-17. Now think about it. 1 second left on the clock. I'm thinking they're just going to kick the field goal and be down 4 going into halftime. Tough thing there is the Rams get the ball back after halftime. And Kyle decides to go for it, and the QB sneak it, and they get in. And I was like, good stuff. Imagine if he didn't do that. Like, imagine if he was just like the Kyle that he's been, where it's just, okay, I'm just going to kick it. And going to halftime down 17-3, 13, that changes the whole trajectory of the game. It changes the way that the Rams have to play. It changes the way that the 49ers have to play. Now you have to kind of be a little bit more aggressive on the quarterback that's been hot. But he said, nope, I'm going to go for it. And there was another time that he was going to go for it as well when, what was the play? The 49ers, the Brandon Ayuk play, where it was really tight coverage, ball hit the ground, ended up being incomplete. But before it was called incomplete on the review, 49ers thought they got it. They thought they got the catch, and it was 4th and 2. He left the offense out there. They were going to go for it. They were lining up to go for it. So clearly, Kyle, and it might be Brock Purdy, I think just having a different level of confidence in Purdy, it's like, man, I trust my quarterback. I'm going to be much more aggressive. And I love it because you can't play to lose or to not lose. You can't play to not lose. And I feel like that's how Kyle Shanahan has coached. Now, when you have the roster he has, and he's a terrific coach in himself. He has good defense. He has great defense. We can lean on that. It has worked out until kind of getting the biggest moments. And then it's like, damn, I need to be a little bit more aggressive. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm a little tight, And you watch the Super Bowl again. And it's like, man, I just wish you were a little more aggressive in the Super Bowl, right? Now, he might tell you, well, I was aggressive in the Super Bowl, but not the 49ers one and the Falcons one, and we lost, which I think kind of some of the way that game played out dictated his aggressiveness or whatever a little bit more. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. It is refreshing to see him be more aggressive. And I think ultimately, like, that's the reason why the 49ers won. Because he decided, I'm not going to play to lose. I'm going to play to win. And I've been calling for it for a while now. Like, that's all I want to see from him. Call these games to where you're playing to win, not to not lose. And that was refreshing to see. So great one, Javier. Appreciate it. All right. I'm not going to give out game balls or anything like that, but shout out to Jake Moody. Jake Moody is a guy who, aka Money Moody, you drafted him in the 3rd round. And there's been one kicker drafted over the last 10 years that has earned a second contract with the team that drafted him. So off top, it's just the process of drafting a kicker is bad. When we're talking about just drafted, and that's in any round, let alone a 3rd round, which late 3rd round, it's still kind of, I don't want to call it a premium pick, but that's a good pick, right? Like, that's a good pick. 3rd round, good pick. And you use it on the kicker. And he's replacing a guy like Robbie Gould, who I don't know about y'all, but I've always felt like I could count on Robbie Gould. Anytime Robbie Gould trotted out there to kick a field goal, I felt like this is going in. I don't even have to think about it. So you let Robbie Gould walk in free agency. You draft a kicker in the third round, which traditionally they don't work. You watch him against the Las Vegas Raiders, and he misses multiple kicks. And then you watch him the next week, and he misses the extra point. Then next thing you know, he doesn't play in the last preseason game because he's hurt. It's like, this is a disaster. And I didn't overreact to it. Like, I don't even think y'all heard me talk about it. So it's not even something I really like overreacted to. But it was just like, what the heck? This is why, like, why would you do it? And then next thing you know, he's like, you know what? Now I'm gonna be 100% on all my kicks against the Steelers. Whether it's field goals, whether it's extra points, I'm gonna be 100%. And then you go to the next week, and he bangs through a 57-yarder. Boom. He's 3 for 3. He's making all his extra points. And next thing you know, I don't want to say it looked like a great draft pick, but I'm going to say I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. He has been very good. Now, you want to continue to see him do this, continue to see him bang through those deep kicks. But right now, it's like, if I was giving out game balls, he'd definitely get one because he helped. Look, 49ers won by 7 points. If he misses that 57-yard kick, like, what does the game look like? It starts to look a little different. All right, so shout out to the youngster, Money. Are we gonna call him Money Moody? All right, appreciate him for that. And I see Richard in the chat. He says Robbie Gould would never have made a 57-yarder. Now listen, I don't want to say he would have never made it, but I would say that yeah. I believe that Moody, I give him a better chance to make that. One of the biggest things with him coming in was he had a strong leg. So that's awesome. He made 9 points alone. 9 points alone. Let's go. Let's go. All right, this is what I'm going to do now, man. I'm going to put y'all in the chat. Here we go. The link is in the chat now. You guys feel free. Come on live. Anything that y'all want to talk about with this game. If you guys have more questions about the defensive backs, holla at me. We'll talk about that. If you guys have like technique questions with the DBs, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I hope. We'll see when the All 22 comes out. But I hope that I can do more of a film breakdown on that. All right. Again, this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. And I talked about how, man, like, it was a tough weekend for me as far as Underdog Fantasy. Now, not even came up a couple $100. I think the couple $100 covered most of the plays that I had, but missing out on, oh my goodness, the Colorado game. So Colorado playing. I'm playing Underdog Fantasy. So Underdog Fantasy makes everything way more exciting if you don't have it. All right. But second half plays, again, have been my moneymaker. And the damn, what was it? Brown from Colorado State, his over on the, for the total game, when you put it in at halftime, because in the first half he had like 100 yards, it was like 133. Bro had 132 yards. He caught a crosser at the end of the fourth quarter, ran backwards, lost 2 yards. So he ended up going under, right? The game went into overtime. I'm like, just give him one catch. Just give him one catch. Give him one catch, please. He didn't get a catch in 2 overtime opportunities. And that right there made me miss out on $500. $500. All right. So that was the first one that just hurt. Another one that hurt, Drake May. All right. Drake May. The over under on his rushing yards for the game was like 35.5. He had 35. I picked the over. That right there made me miss out on $100. Might have been $200. And then last but not least, the $1,000 miss. Matthew Stafford. I don't know why. I just thought it would be a closer game so they would run a little bit more in the second half. I take the under on his second half yards. He went over. On the last drive. Garbage time. That cost me $1,000. Or maybe miss out on $1,000. So Horton went crazy. Now Horton from Colorado State, I picked his receptions. I got that. I hit on that. He was good. He was good. Quarterback Shador Sanders was good. Like everybody else, the little one, number 5 for Colorado, he went on. Like everybody did their thing. It was the one. It was Dave. It was Davis, I believe his name was number 4. Whoever number 4 is, hurt me. Hurt me. Ran backwards. Come on, man. All right, here we go. Bringing on the callers now. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me put my headset on. Niner Gang Tay says, man, them 0.5 hurt so bad, man. You ain't lying. Skeezy. What up, man?
Croc, what's going on, man?
Oh, man, I'm chilling, man. What's good with you?
Oh man, chilling, man. Hey man, I just want to give thoughts on the game, man. First of all, it was a great team win yesterday. We 2-0, starting off on the right foot, and that's what we want, right? We want to start off hot, because we're trying to get that first spot, in the playoffs, home field advantage and everything like that. So, shout out to our gang, man. I want to start with the defense first. I'm not gonna lie, Croc, I was nervous yesterday because our DBs were just backing off, and the cool was just getting yards, man. The cool was he had the most catches out of all the random receivers yesterday because he was just cooking us yesterday. So I was concerned, and plus the defensive line wasn't getting to the quarterback. We do understand that Bosa is not in shape due to not being with the team during the offseason because of the contract situation. So it was nerve wracking because our D line just wasn't getting home. But what I was more nervous about was, can Steve Wilkes make the adjustment? And he did. And that made me feel real comfortable going into the second half because we knew that our defensive line wasn't getting home and our DB was playing off. So what you got to do? You got to get up in the guys' faces so you can give the D line chances and plus blitz. So Wilkes made me very more comfortable going into the second half. And we was able to get turnovers off of it. Lenoir got the turnover because he was playing press. Oliver had a turnover. Warner had about 1 or 2 sacks. I think it was 1, but it was off of a blitz. So that was the main thing for me is, can Steve Wilson make the adjustment? And he did, and we was able to benefit off of it. So I was real happy of that, and I'm very happy about that going forward. Offensive side of the ball, I think the offense played great. Brock Purdy played well. I wouldn't say great because due to the fact that we had 2 layups and he missed. The one at Jennings, the one at Jennings that he missed, I think it wouldn't have been a touchdown. I think it would have been a huge gain, but he missed that too. So we can't give Brock no excuses on that. Like, you got to make those throws because you made those throws last year in the Washington game, and you made one in the Tampa Bay game to McCaffrey. So we seen him make those deep throws. So we can't give him an excuse on that. He has to get better on that, and I believe he will. Maybe because Brock was just underthrowing balls during during training camp and stuff. Maybe he didn't want to present that to us. So he was just trying his best not to make that mistake, and he just threw it too hard. I don't know, but he just has to work on that, and I think he'll be better from that going into next week. But other than that, the offensive line played well too, Croc. I mean, Aaron Donald was on a milk carton. Like, he wasn't nowhere to be found. I don't think he made not one play yesterday. So that was great.
Matter of fact, I had asked Peacock, I'm like, did Aaron Donald play? Now I knew he played because I saw him. There was a play where the time ran down, 49ers had to call timeout. Now I saw him kind of like doing this, which was weird because like, are you trying to pump up the 49er fans? Because that's all I see in the stands. But but that was the only time I really noticed Aaron Donald, and it's kind of weird. Like, he was someone who I thought would be like a point of emphasis. Like, man, you got to slow him down. You got to stop him. Like, man, Spencer Burford, like, that's going to be tough for him. But ultimately, Aaron Donald, somehow against the 49ers, he's kind of been a non-factor.
Right. And it was one play, and I got to give credit to McKivitz. It was one play that Brock got the ball out, and Aaron Donald was in the backfield, but McKill was still on him, and he drove him to the ground. So, I mean, I got to give a shout out to McKivitz, man. He held up pretty well. So, shout out to the offensive line. But other than that, man, that was a pretty good team win, man. I mean, I'm satisfied. We play the Rams late on down the season. But something to look out for when we play them again is that Cooper Kupp will be back. So Cooper Kupp with Nakua, that's going to be something. But I think we'll be prepared for that. When that time comes. But
Yeah.
they had us playing football yesterday, and we got a short week, coming up this Thursday against the Giants. So I think we'll win that game. I think the team going to be ready, and I think we're going to be 3-0, man.
All right, love to hear it. All right, I'll holler at you. I'll see you on Twitter Spaces.
I bet. Salute, Croc.
All right. All right, here we go. Next up, we got my guy Chris Roscoe's. Chris, good morning, man. How you doing? And you're on mute too. You gotta take yourself off mute, Chris.
I know I was on mute. Croc.
Okay, man. I just had to make sure because I don't know.
What's up, Croc? How's Victory Monday going?
Victory Monday would be better if I would have hit on one of those big ones on Underdog Fantasy, and I didn't. So that was tough.
Yeah, man, that's kind of crazy. Oh man, I was at the game yesterday. First off, if y'all have not gone to a Niners versus Rams game, it's a must go. Like the energy, it's crazy though, because when I was in Pittsburgh and I love that atmosphere, I love the terrible towels waving and the Niners coming out, Fred Warner doing his thing in the end zone. I'm gonna tell you this, it still doesn't match up to the Niners versus, because it's a rivalry. So the Niners versus, it was loud in there. It was most of us though too. It's an experience. You know who Treyway is. That was his first time getting experience, and he was like, "Bruh, it was more red than I expected." I'd probably say it was like 65, maybe 70-30. It was a lot of us, bro. Hey man, another win. I'm 6-0 now. Well, I'm on a 6-game win streak with the Niners. I started out like my first 8 games started out 1-7, and it's. I don't know what shifted, but something shifted, and I've been going to a lot more wins now. But
I think they were just bad when you first started going to the games. That's probably
very true. You are very true. It started back in 07. We lost the Cowboys and Cardinals, same season. Keyshawn Johnson. Yeah, I'm kind of old. Anyways, Croc, I came on here because I wanted to be educated today. I was kind of a little late, but if you could you kind of first off, here, I'll tell you what I thought. I thought that Matthew Stafford was taking what the defense was giving him. I thought it was kind of very similar to the NFC Championship game when we played them. The reason why the defensive line wasn't getting home is because, there's a lot of slants, a lot of outs, just stuff that just, boom, get the ball out of his hands. I thought Wilkes did a great job in the second half. I don't know if anybody noticed, but it was a lot more blitzes coming, and the Niners just in the right place. I was telling my boy Chris Polo, who I went to the game with, that listen, the way they're scoring and the way we're scoring is much easier. The way what we're doing compared to them, they have to dink. I don't want to say dink and dunk, but they just kind of dink and dunk their way down the field, and then a mistake is going to happen, and boom, running back drop the pass, we pick it off. And then the next time around, Lenoir just made a great play. But I wanted to ask you, one, do you kind of agree with what I'm saying? Two, what did you see from the defense in that first half? Because second half, we only allowed 3 points. Everybody know, I'm not counting that other 3 where he kicked it with 4 seconds left. That was kind of weird to me. But we allowed 3 points really in the second half. So I kind of wanted to – and it was basically kind of similar to last year. We shut them out in the second half last year when we played them. It was 14-14, remember? It was 14-14 last year, 14-10, and then we came out in the second half and just blanked them. So I just wanted to know what was your thoughts on my observations, and what else would you add to it?
Yeah, so we did discuss a little bit earlier, but I'll kind of be a little quicker with my response on this one. I think just naturally the 49ers want to play more coverage and rush 4. And when you have Nick Bosa, who you kind of really count on to be that disruptor, he's not quite that right now. I think that's more so the issue. So quarterbacks they're a little bit more comfortable. You're able to kind of drop back, make throws, make reads. And when you have an offensive coordinator, a play caller like McVay, who understands how to take advantage of what it is the 49ers are doing, I think that puts them in a disadvantage type situation. So I think ultimately you saw Wilkes understand at halftime, my fastball, which is Nick Bosa, like just counting on him to get there and disrupt things. He's not quite that right now while he works back in shape. So I'm gonna have to figure something else out. Second half, I thought they just got way more aggressive. You saw, I'm curious to see how many times they lined up, 7 guys at the line of scrimmage, whether they were sending 5 or 6 guys or dropping guys in the coverage and kind of simulating pressure by sending 4, but maybe other guys, and then maybe dropping the edge out into space. So they started to give them different looks, and the cornerbacks, you see them do a little bit more press coverage, and they got more aggressive from that standpoint, and they did good, which I think they should have done all along. Like, look, the thing that frustrated me was, why not challenge yourself more? I always talk about challenging yourself as a defensive back, right? When you have Puka, how many go routes did he run? Like, did we see him run a go route at all?
Nope. They didn't even challenge us down the field at all.
Right. So if they're not challenging us down the field, if they're not throwing a go route, why are we not squatting on more of these routes? Why are we not anticipating them breaking down? Why are we not challenging them more at the top of routes? And that's what I would like to see. Whether it's in the first half where you were just trying to like lean more on your pass rush, or even the second half. But why can't we just be more aggressive with how we cover and how we're seeing these guys, so we can kind of squeeze these windows, as opposed to letting them play pitch and catch and have Nakua have nice run after catch opportunities? So that's what I would have liked to see from the 49ers. Use your brain on this. Lenoir, you got Nakua. He's hooking up on these, curl routes. Well, has he tried to run by you yet? So why are you not anticipating a stop route? Like, those are the things that I would like ask about. But I love how they bounced back. Again, they adjusted. They played tighter in the second half and limited them to 3 points. Now, part of that was, they were able to move the ball, but they threw, an interception that hit Kyron Williams right in the chest, bounced up, and Oliver was like, thank you, right? Picked it off. But overall, I think be more aggressive right away with your coverage, depending on the receivers you're guarding. If you have, let's say if you want to play softer on Tutu Atwell, I get it. He can stretch the field. He's a speedster, cool. But nobody yesterday showed that they were trying to even stretch the field. So why aren't we playing a little bit more aggressive, even in our off coverage? I would have liked to. I would wish that I could ask Wilkes and the DBs that. Like, hey, since Nakua was catching everything underneath, and he never ran any go routes, or he never tried to threaten y'all vertically, why wouldn't you squat on some of these routes a little bit more? And I would love to hear their answer to that, or their response.
I just wanted to add this. They rotated the defensive lineup a lot, and that happened in Pittsburgh too. Bosa's literally, I'm pretty sure he's on the snap count right now, which I don't mind. But I will say, though, he still had 3, which is crazy. He still had 3 quarterback hits, I believe. I don't know if it was him or somebody else who forced the intentional grounding. It was somebody else who forced the throwaway, and it was somebody else who forced another bad pass. So, and that was pretty much all in the second half. The defensive line kind of starting to get home a little bit more. But again, also it helped with the blitzes as well. But yeah, we are rotating our defensive line a lot, and I noticed that the last 2 weeks being at both games. But all right, Croc, I appreciate the education. I can't wait till the All-22 come out, and hopefully you'll have a show breaking down the All-22. I appreciate you, man.
Definitely. All right, here we go. I got a star tweet real quick. I got one from my guy Jesse that I'm gonna leave that for Shunder Boy, who's about to come on. All right, but we got a question here, or a thought. McVay used a lot of trip formations to avoid press coverage in the first half, plus pre-snap motion. Definitely. But even then, right, even with the bunch formations, which definitely make it more difficult to press guys, even though you can press the point and you can play off of the other guys, you still can be more aggressive with, even though I'm off, let's say I'm off 6-7 yards. I'm going to be off 6-7 yards, but I'm not just going to like back out, create more space, and let you play pitch and catch and still throw these 7-8 yard passes to these guys. Like, Nakua didn't have a huge yards per catch average. All right, and let me pull, let's see, ESPN real quick. Hold on, y'all. Bear with me. Because if I had to guess, his average per catch was pretty low. If it's about 8-9 yards, like that's not bad. He just caught 15 passes. All right. So let's see. Full box score. Boom. We got Puka. 9.8 yards per reception. All right, so that's not like this guy that's eating you up with these explosive plays. He just had a bunch of them. All right, but even then, it's like if you're just gonna catch these 7-yard passes on me, I'm gonna start to tighten down. I don't even want to give that up. Now that's the great corners, right? And maybe the 49ers corners and their coaches are content because I've talked about it. I don't think the 49ers have these great back end guys. I think they have guys that, do what the 49ers are asking them to do, and they do that well. All right. And maybe they're just asking them sit off, rally down, tackle, and make them have to chip away. And we'll do that. As opposed to what I saw from Dallas Cowboys, they gave up I don't know what, 60, 65-yard catch and run from Garrett Wilson. He beat Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore got beat on like a little dig or kind of like a slant crossing route. Boom. Wilson caught it and just ran off on him. So that's kind of what can happen if you play more aggressive. But also Wilson, we know like he can run vertically. Like he can take the top off of defense. He can do those things. Nakua hasn't shown he's that guy. So even versus trips or bunch formations, I would still like to see them squat on routes a little bit more. Even with that. All right, here we go. Coming up next, we got Keith coming on. Keith, man, how you doing, bro?
Hey, what's up, bro? How you, man?
Oh man, I'm chilling. I'm good. 49ers 3-0, so everything's good. Or 2-0, excuse me.
2-0, yeah. Deommodore Lenoir is looking like the number one corner right now. I was disappointed in Travarius Ward yesterday.
Ward. See, so I like Ward more impressed, and I thought he got called for something. Holding, pass interference, illegal contact. Yeah. He got called for something that I thought, like, I didn't really care for that call. All right. Now, outside of that, I didn't think he was, like, bad. But, again, even with all the corners, whether it's Deommodore, Lenoir, or anything, we don't play them like this guy is CB1 or this guy is CB2. It's just like this is our scheme. We're going to sit off, and this is the coverage we're going to play. And we're going to count on our front end, which, again, the front guys, that's who they pay all the big bucks to. So we're going to count on those guys to really kind of generate the pressure for us so we don't have to cover as long and we can keep everything in front of us, rally down, make tackles. You got backers that do a good job of, squeezing space, rallying down, making tackles as well. So it's tough to, like, fault the backing guys too much without knowing how they're being asked to cover. But ideally, whether it's, Lenoir, who you said is playing the best, or it's Ward, I would just still like to see them all be a little bit more aggressive with how they're playing. Now, they might tell you Crocker doesn't work that way. With Matthew Stafford, he does this, he could beat us this way, he could beat us that way. So we just want to play a little bit softer, and maybe that's what they'll tell you. But I think they're good enough to challenge themselves more.
To your point, Nakua, like you said, 9.8 yards, a completion or whatever catch. Stafford had 52 attempts and only had 300 yards. Like, he was dinking and dunking because Purdy had 200 yards on like 20 less attempts.
Yeah.
And another thing that kind of worried me yesterday was the amount of penalties that we got. I don't think we played clean at all. And if that's a bad Brock Purdy game, I'll take that. I don't think he gave me one scare me throw yesterday, which I've become accustomed to as a 49er fan the last couple of years.
Yeah, no scare me throws. I didn't see a throw where I'm just like, nope, none of those. So just, a few overthrows and a few missed throws on some underneath stuff where even, he kind of got bailed out by Deebo once. He got bailed out by Kittle once on some inaccurate throws. But for the most part, again, no turnovers, which I think is really good because I think that would really change the complexion of that game. So even in an off game, didn't turn the ball over, I can live with that.
Last thing, what do you think about the use of CMC? No Mitchell, nobody was touching the ball.
I had a big bone to pick with Kyle Shanahan on that, and I actually have it in my notes, but I didn't talk about it. There is no way that in a game where you're up 10, whatever, or it's close, you're riding Christian McCaffrey, and again, we want to preserve him. We want to make sure that he's good throughout the year.
The whole season,
of course, like give him his carries, give him his touches, all that, cool. But I don't see how, like, okay, he has 23 touches, which isn't a ton, but it's a decent amount. But 0 touches for Elijah Mitchell. I think that's BS. And also Deebo Samuel, who again, he's one of the best playmakers on the team. I understand getting the ball in his hands, all that. For him to have 5 or 6 carries, and again, Elijah Mitchell having 0, to me, that's a little. It's like, are we trying to just ride these guys until they break down, and then okay, then we're just gonna ride the next guy? And I think Kyle does that a lot, and that's why he goes through running backs the way that he does.
He goes through running backs. He goes through quarterbacks. I mean,
yeah. on Locked On 49ers, I talked about this. I want to say I mentioned it yesterday on this morning's episode, where there was a game of a couple years ago, Elijah Mitchell's rookie year. Elijah Mitchell was just coming back from an injury. Like he had missed time for his finger, but I know because I talked to some people there, his knee was banged up, his ribs were banged up. They didn't even know they weren't even really having him practice because he had to get through games. And 49ers beat the Rams by 3 scores on primetime television, and Kyle ran Elijah Mitchell 27 times. It's like, bro, what are we doing? And I'm not saying, listen, I don't want to come off as if
Raheem Mostert actually commented on that when he left for Miami, was talking about the injury stuff and how he was used or managed.
You're just mixing the other guys. That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying you got to, rest CMC for a ton of time. I'm not saying that, don't give him the rock, especially if it's a tight game. Like, I get it. Cool. But for Mitchell, who is a good back, if Mitchell is bad, like, okay, he's bad.
Right.
Mitchell is a good running back.
Mitchell helped us win a playoff game in Dallas.
Right. Most people would tell you that 49ers have a top 3 running back group in the NFL. Right. And you feel like you have a top 3 group because Mitchell's a part of that. And to just give him 0 touches, 0 carries, like did not get in the game, to me, that's just, it's a little, that's how, if Elijah Mitchell, if Christian McCaffrey, when we start to hit here, he's breaking down because running backs get hurt.
Right.
And so, but every time they carry the ball, every time they touch the ball, you just open up another opportunity for this guy to get hit. So at some point, it's like, even if it's just 5 carries, like Elijah Mitchell, last week he had 5 carries. Didn't have a huge yards per carry. I want to say maybe average 2 yards per carry. It wasn't great, but he had 5 carries. I think every game he should at least get 5 carries because that's 5 carries that is not Deebo or Christian McCaffrey opening himself up to another injury. So that's just my opinion, but Kyle knows more than me.
And before I go, do you got an update on Ayuk? Did they say anything?
Kyle felt like it was kind of serious, but I don't know if it's serious to where he's not playing. So I think today we'll hear more about that.
Okay. All right, man. Thanks.
All right, here we go. Next up, we got my guy, Shunder Boy. Shunder Boy, what's good, man? Good morning.
What's up, buddy?
Okay, so I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. All right. I got my guy right here, Jesse from Last Second Sports. And Jesse says, I think the fact that they put up 30 with him, aka Purdy, being off shows just how important Christian McCaffrey truly is. Let's not forget that Christian McCaffrey is undefeated with a QB finishing games with Jimmy or Brock. So I think even as the starter and the quarterback finishing, because CMC did play against the Chiefs, but he wasn't the starter. 49ers lost that game. But outside of that, they've been winning every game with him. So do you have any thoughts on that?
So there's a quote that Richard Sherman had back when he was on the Niners. And he basically it was, how long are you guys going to keep making excuses for why I'm good? And so that kind of seems to apply to Brock Purdy in a way. I don't think by any means that Brock Purdy has arrived. I don't think that he is a top 5, top 8, probably not even a top 10 quarterback. I'm not getting at that at all. My concern is that people are looking for reasons for why Brock Purdy's not the reason, instead of giving him credit that even in a bad game, he was still able to make enough plays to put points on the board. Brock Purdy's not an elite thrower. We know that. He missed deep balls. He's a little bit hit or miss outside the numbers, even though his anticipation is terrific outside the numbers. He's terrific situationally. He anticipates, and the offense operates really well with him in the game, much better than it has with any other quarterback.
Yep.
CMC does is he allows Kyle Shanahan to manipulate defenses. over and over again, people have talked about the real genius of Kyle Shanahan is that he understands all the rules and responsibilities of a defensive player, and he uses motions and he uses their rules against them. And CMC and Deebo, by the way, it's actually the combination of the two and not just CMC, but the combination of those two being totally interchangeable. And you can come out in literally any situation you want, any package you want, any player personnel, and still force and manipulate defenses based on their rules. That's what really changes the game. However, if you don't have a quarterback that understands how to take advantage of those opportunities, it doesn't really matter. It's a whole lot of extra window dressing that doesn't get you anywhere. So, yes, CMC is the player that has unlocked Kyle Shanahan's offense. And we talked about this last year on your show when we first traded for him, was his ability to force people, their eyes, his ability to stretch the field left and right and force people to pursue and stuff like that, which opens up windows behind him, things like that in the passing game, just as an example. But if you don't have a quarterback that understands where to go, Brock almost never misses a read. He misses throws, but he doesn't miss reads. It seems like ever. And so it's important to understand that it's both things. It's CMC opening up things for the offense, but it's also Brock Purdy consistently taking advantage of those openings in the way that the other quarterbacks didn't. We've got to start giving this guy credit for playing tremendous situational football, for not making bad plays. Everybody talks about interceptions. Dirting a ball on a screenplay that's going nowhere is just as important as not throwing an interception.
Right,
not putting the ball in.
Anybody that paid attention, Jimmy G, he threw an interception yesterday on the screen, which I was talking to my brother. I'm like, Jimmy might have had two, because he had two interceptions yesterday. I was like, they might have been two of the more unfortunate interceptions for a quarterback. Like one, the lineman just made like this great swipe, like he just kind of like somehow got his hand around, like I don't even know where he came from, tipped the ball in the air, then the other guy picked it off. I'm like, damn, that sucks for Jimmy. Then the next one, like a linebacker jumped over his pass catcher to intercept the ball from like a running back in the flat. So I was like, then that sucks. But anyways, putting the ball in harm's way on the screen, we saw from Trey in preseason. I saw it from Jimmy yesterday. And then you talk about it, with Brock, where it's like dirting it is the right thing to do, which, we've seen him do that.
And that's situational. Sometimes he'll hold it a bit longer because he knows if he can just give him a half a second for it to develop, and then he can throw it around the guy with a sidearm sling. And that's why, you say things like arm talent and special throwing ability. Throwing a ball hard is actually, that's not as special as the ability to deliver a ball accurately in a slot sideways. That's more uncommon than throwing a ball hard. There's plenty of people that can throw a ball hard. Can you throw a ball accurately with anticipation? That is far more rare in a quarterback.
Yeah. So outside of that, is that what you wanted to come on here? Because I know I presented the question for you.
Yeah.
But is that what you wanted to kind of like just discuss on not the slights at Purdy? Because again, I didn't think he had a great game. I thought this was the worst game that I've seen him play from an accuracy standpoint. And even then, with him playing his worst, did not turn the ball over. That's a plus. And still lead in the offense. He's the quarterback of the offense in a position to where you scored 30 points. And I think that's a tremendous value as a quarterback, where even when I don't have my fastball, because that's why I was wondering, like, man, if Brock doesn't have his fastball, what does it look like? And it's like, well, it looks like he still scored 30 points. So I think that's awesome.
So no, that's not necessary. I kind of was going to touch on it. The thing that, for me, that I saw that's different about Brock Purdy, because I hear a lot of people talking about he's Jimmy G 2.0. Just because the offenses run similarly, because neither of them have a big arm, for one, we don't know that Kyle Shanahan doesn't just prefer to run the offense that way. Number two, there's so many things that are different. How many times did you see Jimmy G take a timeout? Oh, no, this isn't right. This guy's in the wrong place. Take a timeout. Never. He wasn't allowed. How often do you see Jimmy G snapping at guys? No, wrong side. Like his understanding of where guys are supposed to be, what they're trying to get done, his ability to process it and see it now is way above what Jimmy G was ever at. And can we please stop forgetting that he just played his 10th game? We are holding this guy to the standard of a long-term NFL veteran. We're comparing him to a guy that was a 6-year NFL veteran and learned under Tom Brady for 3 years. Can we please recognize that this guy does not play like a guy who hasn't even started 16 games yet?
So I want to ask, like, who do you think is comparing him to? Because I think as like, at least on here and the way I hear people talking about him, because I haven't seen anybody say, well, he can't improve on this, he can't improve on that. I think people are just kind of taking it game by game. So I could be wrong. And again, sometimes I don't pay attention to what like other people are saying. I haven't listened to any podcast on the game, so I don't know what they're saying either. But to me, it just feels like collecting data and on different situations that he hasn't been in because he is so youthful, right? And in his 10th game or 8th start, whatever it was, it's like, okay, like what does it look like when he doesn't have a fastball? Oh man, he still scored 30 points. All right, like that's another box we're checking off with Brock Purdy in the development of him. That's how I viewed it, but I could be wrong because I don't know what people are saying outside.
So two things. The reference that I'm making, a lot of people call him Jimmy G 2.0. Why are we comparing a first-year player to a 6-year veteran and acting like it's not? Why are we acting like it's not a big deal that he's already as good or better as a 6-year veteran who took a team to a Super Bowl?
I'll say this.
That's ridiculous.
I'll say this. I think that comes from they do win in a very similar way. And when I say win, I'm not talking about win the game. I'm just saying like win the rep. Now,
of course,
one I think, and this might be the different way or whatever. Like if Kyle was explaining to you, I feel like Brock does it with more spacing. So maybe there's something that he's doing that Kyle's like, you know what, like this is actually what I've always wanted it to look like. So even though it's kind of within the same area, he's getting to whatever the answer is in a safer way, as opposed to Jimmy, who won in the same area, but I felt like the windows were drastically smaller a lot of times, and it was much more predicated on, man, like he has to get the ball, like it got to be out right now because this window is small, but it's still, catching run opportunities, like all those things were there. So I think it's more so in the sense of being compared to Jimmy, like he was the 49ers quarterback for several years, and we got to see him in this offense, and I think it looks similar, even though it feels a little different. Pause. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that's what people are kind of comparing to. Like, it's not in the sense of play style, they aren't drastically different.
So they are. And here's why. Number one, the reason that those things are so open is because of how well Brock Purdy uses his eyes to manipulate defenders. Those same guys are not moved 2 feet to the left, opening up that window when Jimmy was playing quarterback. So that's one key difference. And there's multiple people from the guy that does the QB school, JT O'Sullivan, from Baldinger, multiple guys who are high-level, highly respected guys who have broken down the film on Brock Purdy and have explained just exactly how much better he operates the offense than other people have. Everybody says it looks the same. Maybe that's because that's how Kyle Shanahan wants the offense to run. As far as checking boxes go, that's all Brock Purdy's been doing. When he came out in the first one, they zero blitzed him. Can he keep his poise? Is the game too big for him? Check that box. Next game is okay, but now he has to go against Tom Brady. Check that box. Well, can he do it on the road? Check that box. I see stuff coming back up like this last week. They're like, well, what happens when he gets down 10? Is he going to be able to do it? What happened? People forget the Raiders game last year. Right, so he's already checked boxes that people are now recycling because he's checked every box they've put in front of him. When are we going to accept, hey, this guy's a good quarterback. He's a limited quarterback from a physical standpoint, but there's ways to win games and play at a high level without a cannon of an arm.
And I think that Jimmy Garoppolo showed that as well, right? Like,
yeah,
Jimmy won
absolutely
70% of his games with the 49ers. Like, we're what was the thing?
Exactly.
Though? All the things that you just said. Well, Jimmy didn't have a rocket arm. Like how he's showing, he was efficient. He was top 5 in a lot of statistical categories in the NFL. Like 2019, like he was near the top of the league in most of those categories, right? So this isn't. I've never thought that saying Brock is Jimmy 2.0. I never looked at it as a bad thing because more times than not, when Jimmy was a quarterback, like you were winning games, you were winning a lot of games. I do think that if we could say Brock is taking it a step up, and maybe there's these slight differences, but have bigger outcomes and maybe uh, less like scary moments. I'll give you that, and maybe that alone kind of leads to the consistency of nearing or having 30 points per game. But when somebody says he's Jimmy 2.0, maybe they take it as a slight. I don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? So maybe that's where there's the disconnect. Because I think being Jimmy 2.0,
A lot of
not
people
that
do.
thin. And that's not
I,
so
I agree with you,
that's not
but
a
there's a
bad
lot
thing
of
in my opinion.
people. There's a lot of people though that do view him being Jimmy 2.0 as a bad thing, as it's just another Jimmy, and
So
so
maybe
on and so
that's where
forth. And all,
the defense of him comes from for you. But for me, when I saw like, oh, it's
correct.
Jimmy 2.0, I'm like, okay, like, that's cool. Like Jimmy is nice. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I'm
It's
gonna get to
the
the next caller though. We're gonna talk
yeah.
about this tomorrow some more. All right. Here we go. Coming up next, we got Tia. Tia, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm chilling.
I'm sorry I'm a little late today, but yeah, I was just listening to him and I was like, okay, I just it just irritates my spirit. I understand, people are, he Brock is the shiny new toy and we like the shiny new toy. I get it, but they acting like any little criticism we're downplaying his play. We're just talking about how he could play better. I don't understand why if somebody make a critique of Brock Purdy, they take it so personal as if we're saying, well, he sucks. No, we're just saying he should have played a little bit better. I don't understand why they're being so offensive. And then for him to make the comment, well, why are we comparing Brock to Jimmy? He's only played 8, 9 games. I said, didn't we just do this with Trey? Didn't we just compare Brock Purdy to Trey? Trey played how many games in college and how many games did Brock play in college? He has more experience. So, of course, he's going to look better than what Trey did in college. So, we always going to compare these players because that's what we do in sports. We compare everybody to everybody. This person's going to look like this person in the next 5 years. This person's going to look like this person in the next 10 years. Hey, it's unfair, but that's what we do. Like, don't act like this is brand new, and then now we want to get in our feelings because you so enamored with Brock Purdy. To me, that's ridiculous. Like, y'all act like we cannot say anything negative about Brock Purdy's play at all, which boggles my mind. If they say he looked like Jimmy, okay, Jimmy won games. I'm not understanding what the problem is. Like,
So
I'm
that's
trying to
kind of
figure
been
out
my
what.
thing. When I hear Jimmy's name, like, I don't view it as a negative, but I do see a lot of fan base that were ready to move on, and that might be who Damon is more so talking about, like the people that view Jimmy in this negative context, and then try to lump him in with Brock Purdy, where all we've seen from Brock Purdy is very positive, like really mostly everything, right?
Right.
That we've seen from him. So I could understand why. I think I kind of talked about this with somebody on Twitter, and it was kind of one of them people that have like the Brock Purdy uh, Twitter profile pics. So I probably should just not interact with them. But he was like, "Croc, you said Brock Purdy was similar to Nick Mullins," and I said, "No, that's not exactly what I said." But also, you're thinking that I don't like Nick Mullins, or I don't think that like Nick Mullins threw the third most yards in NFL history over his first 16 starts. The only people over him, it was like, I don't know, Andrew Luck and Patrick Mahomes or something like that. So there was a lot of good with Mullins as well. There might be things that are slightly different from Mullins to Jimmy or Jimmy to Brock that makes them a little bit better than the other, then that just can result in a lot of wins or a consistent level higher play. But in the sense of like the areas that they consistently won, like those things are similar. What is the slight difference? And I think we're figuring that out with Brock. And I think we figured that out with, whatever Jimmy, like whatever conclusion we came to, and whatever conclusion we came to with Mullins, which is Mullins is a backup. Jimmy is a starting NFL quarterback, but maybe closer to kind of the, 14 to 18 range. And Brock we're still, collecting data, but so far everything should lead you to believe he's slightly above Jimmy. Like at least that's how I feel. But
Well, I think
I
the only
don't.
difference to me is he's not the, to me, how we in our household. is that when Jimmy comes out, we like, oh my God, I just hope we don't have a Jimmy moment. And everybody know the Jimmy moment is he throw it to the other team. That's the only, to me, far as gaming and how he's calling the games in the same throws and the same places he hit on the field. I think that's what it is. It's not like we saying that, oh, he's gonna suck or something. All I'm saying is that he's doing the exact same thing that Jimmy does, except he's not giving the ball to the other team. There's no slight. There's no, oh, you suck. There's not, oh, Brock can't improve or Brock is, he's really not that good. All we saying is that he's just not turning the ball over. That's good. That's what we want, not for you to give the ball to the other team. But at the same time, can we see more games before we say he the next Joe Montana? Is that okay? I'm just trying to figure out, is that okay? Because I think we putting our expectations on somebody, and I think when he come back to earth, because it will be a game where he will come back to earth, I just want y'all to just make sure that y'all don't have a meltdown, because when it happens, we got to be like, okay, he had a bad game, and then not say he sucked at the same time too. So I just think we just need to pump the brakes. Hey, this is what Brock needs to do. This is what he needs to work on. Hopefully he'll be able to improve. But that doesn't mean he sucked. And I think that's where people need to figure it out.
Yeah, Tia, Damon in the chat, he says, Tia, I think you are amazing. I feel like when people start with something like that, he's going to follow up
they
with
just say something negative, but I'm a talk about it.
But he says, my only point is that many people lean into the negative even when he plays well. He is good and he will get better. Here's another comment here from BZ. He says there were two Jimmys. Brock is similar to good Jimmy. Nothing wrong with that. And I think my guy Grant Cohn always talked about that. Good Jimmy, bad Jimmy.
Right, which is the Jimmy, oh my God, Jimmy, please. Like the last 5 minutes of the game, Jimmy, we just need you to, hey, throw it, run it. That's it. We don't need you to turn the ball over. That's what we talking about. So if he don't do that,
if Brock good. If Brock is good Jimmy more than he ever is bad Jimmy, or he's never bad Jimmy, I think you have a pretty good damn quarterback, because I thought good Jimmy was good.
Right, which I think that's what we're saying. That's why I'm trying to figure out where's the pushback coming, because I think people are not being negative. They're just seeing the things that are eerily similar to the things that we criticize Jimmy about, which is like, okay, we need you to hit them deep throws. Like when they were wide open. It wasn't nobody. First off, for Deebo to beat anybody on an actual route, I'm gonna need you to hit that. I'm sorry, I don't care what it is. If Deebo beats somebody on a route, you got to hit him. He did all he's supposed to do. You supposed to hit that. Ayuk shook the mess out of somebody. Like, he probably still on the field. He shook the mess out of him, and you should have hit him. There was no pressure. You got to hit that. I'm sorry, but that's what we need. When it's time, when the playoffs come around, those are the throws that we're looking for. And for Kyle to sit there and call it up multiple times in the game, which is very rare, because he usually don't do that, you got to hit that. Kittle was wide open for a touchdown. He missed it. He took the under route and just threw it just like a little check down route. Kittle was wide open. You got to see that. So my concern is that, can you fix that? Because, we're fixing to start, these next 2 weeks, there will be some bomb teams. They're not really going to be that good. I'm not really worried about the Giants or Arizona, but these next couple of teams, they have better defenses and better offenses. So can Cal get him up to speed to be able to work on that? That's my question. Can he fix that? And it's not a slight. I just want people to understand that when you critique somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean that they suck. That means it's just that they need to improve on. And that's it.
Right. All right, T, I appreciate you coming on.
All right, thank you.
All right. And I do see everybody in the chat. They're like, oh, she's complaining. She's not complaining. Like, coaches right now, they're not telling Brock, right? And we're talking about 49 coaches. 49ers coaches aren't in there and just like, oh, Brock, everything you did was great. Like, no, they're going to talk about it like, hey, you missed this throw, blah, blah. Like, this is how we will make sure your feet are this way or whatever. You got to hit this throw. We need you to hit this throw. Hey, you missed this throw. Boo, woo, woo. Like, okay, blah, blah. Like, okay, but hey, you came back. I like how you did this with Juwan Jennings. You threw it and, you overthrew the first two guys. This time down the sideline to Jennings, you just put it in the spot for him to catch it. Like, that was good. That is not complaining. That is constructive criticism. All right, constructive criticism. And you got to be able to take that at the NFL level. I'm pretty sure, like, Brock can. Like, he's not worried about it. And I don't think anything she said was, again, like, she ain't never said Brock's bad, yada, yada, yada. Just like, hey, what are the 49ers goals? And I think that's the part y'all got to think about. Like, what are the goals for this team? It's not just to be good. It's to bring home 6, right? Like, that's the goal, to bring home 6. So, no, Tia is right. Like, you miss those throws. Those are things that can cost you 6. You know how I know? Because we fucking saw it against Kansas City in the Super Bowl. That throw cost us 6. And when I'm talking about 6, I'm talking about that 6 ring. All right? So, yeah. Like, you look at those things and you want to make, hey, can we get consistent on hitting on those when we got the guy running open? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I don't think that's complaining. I think it's pointing out something like, yeah, those are throws, want to see them hit. Everything else, great. And we could talk about it, right? Like, man, we scored 30 points. Like, that's good. That's good. Awesome. Let's go. There's certain things that when we want to bring home 6, you can't leave on the field. And missing those throws, you can't leave those on the field. And every quarterback misses throws. Like, that's not. But again, what are the 49ers' expectations? Y'all just trying to be good? Or y'all want to see 49ers bring home 6? I don't think that's complaining. I think it's pointing out something that's like, we saw us lose that way. It still hurts. I don't even want to talk about a quarterback missing a deep ball wide open on the 49ers. It still hurts. We got Niner Gang Tay. He was in the chat. He was like, hey, he was talking about Damon's blinker going crazy. I really like this right here. This was a good one. There were 2 Jimmys. Brock is similar to good Jimmy. Nothing wrong with that. I like that. And he is very similar to good Jimmy. And right now, from what we've seen so far, over the 10 games or whatever we've seen him in, we haven't really seen Brock be bad Jimmy. I think that's a plus. That is a plus for sure. All right, we got Alfredo in the chat. He says, hey, Eric, what do you think about the pass rush yesterday? I don't think they were getting any pass rush, or was Stafford releasing the ball? I think it was a combination of both. But ultimately, when you look at the 49ers and kind of how they built this team, heavy up front with the cash, they are going to definitely count and lean on Nick Bosa getting there. And right now, Nick Bosa isn't quite the Bosa that we've grown to know that you paid, because he's working himself back into game shape. So once he gets there, I think you should see like an uptick in the pass rush. But if anybody remember last year, I talked about it. Like, I did not think the 49ers had a good pass rush last year. I thought it was very overrated, and I thought it was heavily dependent on Nick Bosa. And I think right now it still might be heavily dependent on Nick Bosa. And we got Damon here. He says, Brock just had a bad game and we still won. Exactly. But again, Damon, what are your expectations? And nobody's killing Brock. I ain't heard nobody kill Brock. I ain't heard nobody say Brock stinks. And I could be looking at or reading the wrong things. But I haven't seen anybody say Brock stinks. I haven't seen anybody say Brock is terrible. I haven't seen anybody say what we saw yesterday with his misses or inaccurate throws, that's all he'll ever be. I did not see any of that. All I saw was, hey, man, he missed a few throws. We would like to see him hit those. And I agree. Looking at the chat. And we got right here. It wasn't a bad game. Bad game involves turnovers and dumb mistakes. And there we go. All right. Appreciate everybody that tuned in to the show today. Make sure y'all, you know what to do.
Like and subscribe this video.
I'm not sure if we'll be back tomorrow morning. I have a dentist appointment, man. They got to pull a tooth. I'm already missing teeth, and they got to pull another tooth. Hopefully they can save it. So I'm not sure we'll be back tomorrow morning, but maybe tomorrow evening I'll get somebody on. We're going to have the rest of the shows for the rest of the week. Make sure you guys set that notification bell so you know when we go live. But tune in. Locked On 49ers, 5 days a week. Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.